Thank you for joining me on the Modern Travel Agent Podcast. My name is Chris Dehner, and on this week's episode, I'm going to be recapping the Apple Leisure Group Vacations Ascend Conference that was held this past month in Cancun, Mexico. The Ascend Conference is a great opportunity for agents to interact, to build relationships, and to learn from other agents and partners in the industry. This year was a little bit different because for a lot of people, this was the first time in 2 years that they've been around their friends and their partners in the industry. So you could really feel this buzz, this energy, this positivity, sort of this collective feeling like, okay, we've made it through to the other side. But there were also a lot of questions. There were questions about, how the Hyatt acquisition of ALG is going to affect operations, questions about long hold times on calls, long turnaround times on requests, about, the difficulties in hiring during the labor shortage, and specifically what ALG is doing to kind of combat some of these issues. There was a lot of great information provided, and we're going to discuss it all right now.
Welcome aboard. Please take your seat and fasten your seatbelt. The Modern Travel Agent Podcast starts now.
This episode is brought to you by Blue Diamond Resorts. Blue Diamond Resorts has 45 properties in 10 countries throughout Mexico and the Caribbean. And at Modern Destination Weddings, we're a huge fan, especially of the Royalton Riviera Cancun. We've booked over 50 weddings there since 2016. We love it as a property for groups and for weddings. In fact, we love it so much that our director of sales had his wedding there. That was the first time that I had the opportunity to stay at a Blue Diamond property. I was super impressed. I do recommend staying in a Diamond Club room with the upgraded amenities. I also recommend staying in the adult-only hideaway section. It gives you access to an exclusive a la carte restaurant, a bar, and an adult-only pool. If you want to learn more about the Royalton Riviera Cancun or Blue Diamond Resorts, you can visit bdagentrewards.com. That's BD as in Blue Diamond, agentrewards.com. The Ascend Conference initially started as the Summit by Mark Travel back in 2014. I had the opportunity to attend in 2015, 17, and 18, and they were all great conferences. But with the merger between Mark Travel and ALG, there were some questions about whether it would continue or if it did, in what capacity. In 2019, they hosted it in Pennsylvania near the ALG headquarters. In 2020, of course, it was forced to go remote because of the pandemic. But this year it returned to Cancun in a big way. There were over 400 travel agents, 200 representatives from 100 different partner companies, and 65 ALGV staff to make sure that everything ran smoothly. Over 2 full days at the conference, there were workshops on influencer marketing, on staying connected with clients in a virtual world, on running your business by the numbers. So for instance, how you can access all your sales metrics and Vax Vacation Access that are sort of split up by agent, by destination, by the percentage that include insurance, so that of course you can make decisions for your business that are based on quantitative data. There were supplier showcases, of course, which allow agents the opportunity to walk around and to continue to build existing relationships or to forge new ones, to learn maybe about new destinations or new properties or new offerings or updates. The most impactful part of the conference for me was just being around everybody and really just feeling this positivity and this sort of forward mentality, this notion that, okay, yes, the past 18 months have been incredibly difficult, but we made it through it, and it's time to look forward because there's a lot to be positive for. ALG released some stats too that put things in perspective. Their group numbers are up 21% this year compared to 2019, which of course is a huge positive. According to Travel Market Report, there were even times in the past 18 months where Cancun was 50% of ALGV's business, which is kind of insane when you think about it, but then also not that surprising because, of course, Cancun was so quick to reopen and they did such a great job of handling all the hygiene and the COVID testing and all the policies associated with the madness of the pandemic. But in addition to all the positivity and the forward thinking, there's also a lot of discussions of sort of what's been happening the past 18 months. ALGV, they shared with us, for instance, that there are weeks where they'll receive 58,000 schedule changes in a single week. That was kind of eye-opening as far as perspective to understand the difficulties that they're facing and that ultimately we're all facing. There's also discussions about response times and hold times. They talked about it in the executive panels. They really kind of wanted to say, okay, yes, we know we haven't been doing as good of a job as we want to do, but here's the progress that we've made and the progress that we want to continue making. They talked about how they've taken the average hold time on the reservations line from 17 minutes in the second quarter of this year down to 4.5 minutes in the past 3 months. They've also expanded their during travel team to address the issues with hold times and call spikes there. The average hold times for during travel have improved from 35 minutes in the second quarter of this year down to 14 minutes for July and August, and then down to 4 minutes in September. In addition to in-house hiring teams, they've also partnered with staffing agencies to continue to bring in talent. They've hired hundreds of agents. They really wanted to get the point across that, they understand the problems that agents have been dealing with hold times and delays in response times. They're aware of it, they're working hard on it, and they're doing everything they can to kind of solve those problems. They've also expanded their non-voice teams. So that would be things like, email and chat. On their premium chat, they have an average response time of 3 minutes. Now, I know a lot of agents maybe don't use the chat feature. I do highly recommend it. At Modern, we use it all the time, honestly. And it really kind of speeds up the process. We don't use it for everything. We're not using it for during travel or after travel, for involuntary schedule changes or for accounting issues. But we have found a lot of value in using the chat feature for, adding passengers to reservations, taking passengers off reservations, making changes to the rooms. For the really complicated ones that include split stays or mergers of reservations and things like that, we'll still call in on occasion just because sometimes it can be easier to explain everything over the phone. But the chat feature has been really huge for us to kind of speed up the process. And a big part of ALG's discussion on the topic was really to kind of encourage agents to use the chat feature. Of course, you know how agents can be. There were questions about whether those were actual people and not, bots. That had a good laugh. And of course, those are real people in the chat line. They are working hard and they're going to continue to do so to kind of speed up that process. There was also discussion about group service requests, which they said only 8% of agents are using. So this is sort of a drop-down style request process for assistance with group reservations. I'm going to include a link below that details that process of how to use the group service request. And so I'll just say that we use it. It really helps because what it does is the system is set up so that instead of sending an email to somebody who then has to read that email, figure out what they're asking, and then send it to the appropriate party, they have drop-down boxes that make sure that it skips that step and goes straight to the right department. We use something very similar for our back office system and our support team to kind of be efficient and make sure that it gets to exactly who it needs to get to as quickly as possible. The biggest question really was, how is the acquisition of ALG by Hyatt going to affect operations? What does that mean for agents? And the executive staff, of course, didn't shy away from talking about it, but they also kind of hedged a little bit and explained that the acquisition wasn't complete, so they can't get into all of the details, but that the plan is to keep ALG operating as is. I got the impression that as opposed to the way that the ALG and Mark Travel merger kind of just combined different reservations teams and staffs and overlapped and tried to eliminate redundancies, that the way they're approaching this is the ALG team is going to continue doing what it's doing. It's going to operate just underneath the Hyatt brand and with support of their backing. Now, for the agent, they said, this means the commissions are going to stay the same. They're not making any drastic changes. You can kind of expect the same type of thing that you've learned to expect from them. For me, the real question moving forward is what's going to happen with this merger between, the World of Hyatt loyalty program and the ALG Unlimited Vacation Club program. The plan is to have them merged by 2022. So I'll be interested to see what that looks like for agents, because of course, as things are progressing in the industry, there's a lot of resorts that are aiming to go direct to consumer. And so when you have this situation where there's this incentive, this loyalty program that gives them points for booking direct, that can obviously cause issues for agents. So it's going to be interesting to see what that looks like. I certainly hope that agents that book their clients to a Hyatt property or an AMR property are able to have access to the same types of points that their clients would have if they book direct. Of course, if they don't, that could cause potential problems moving forward. It's a bit early to tell, but again, that's what's on my mind. How is the loyalty program going to affect agents moving forward? As we continue to learn about what this acquisition means and its impact on agents, we'll continue to keep you all updated. Thank you so much for joining me on the Modern Travel Agent Podcast. We'll see you next time.